Welcome to another episode of Thought Leaders. I'm your host, Chris Shang, and today we have Lee Mills, who's the CEO and co-founder of Pixly. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks for having me. I love being here and I like the podcast. I'm a fan.
Of course, man. Tell us a little bit about Pixly, what you guys do, kinds of companies you guys work with, and happy to dive into your background.
Sure. So we solve a huge problem mainly for construction, and that is 30% of construction projects have disputes. And the average dispute, believe it or not, is upwards of $50 million. So it's one thing if you hire somebody to remodel your kitchen and they paint it the wrong eggshell color white, that's horrible. Or it's another thing if they lay the foundation for a hospital or an office park 5 yards off center, or they built something where the plans had changed. So it's really important that construction professionals of every shape and size, from home remodelers to the guys, the top of the top, they document the project with photos for pre-existing conditions. So is there something there that's going to adjust the work or cause change orders? Progress through to completion, because a dispute could happen today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now. So we make it super easy to snap, tag, share, and collaborate on photos in a secure encrypted cloud from anywhere, anytime, automatically, and everything's time, date, location stamped to reduce risk and save time.
Interesting. Yeah, that's super interesting. And I'm curious as to how you ended up starting this business, because kind of just your original background, and we can dive into that, is marketing and sales, right?
Yeah.
You did that for quite a few years. How did you end up in that space in marketing and sales in the very beginning? Let's kind of work our way through it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, at my core, I'm a sales and marketing growth hacking startup pro, which I love, just figuring stuff out and problems. But I came to San Diego via the Navy, got out of the Navy, and my first tech job was with a company called backup.com that did online backups before there were VPNs. So imagine backing up your computer on AOL dial-up I'm not sure you're that old.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to, so it'd be painful. So my job was to go out and get traffic and customers and sales and revenue, but without a marketing budget. So I basically did what was the very beginning of online affiliate marketing and biz dev partnerships. And so I would look for websites that had a similar tech or software type audience, like PC World, for example. And it was easy for me to notice that they had unsold inventory. And if you have unsold inventory, you have the same ad just going nonstop on your site. So I'm like, hey, I noticed you might have some unsold inventory. Would you consider doing a test with me? I'll give you 3 banners, 3 matching landing pages, and I'm pretty sure based on the revenue share, will outperform your effective CPM. So it took some convincing, but I got a couple sites to start going. And then once I had some live sites and some data, it was easier to get more. And I started doing large deals with like Yahoo and AOL and MSN and you name it. And it turned out to be great. And then my friend from PC World asked me if I'd do her a favor. And the favor was explain how to go to market online for Olympus that was launching the digital cameras. So I went up to LA, basically just elaborated on that story with slides and data. And they said, that's what we need. I'm like, great. Well, I just showed you how to do it. Good luck here. And they're like, well, we need somebody to actually do it. So they hired me and I launched the cameras online, started my ad agency, Beyond Clicks, marketing agency, worked with a lot of startups, a lot of big brands. Fast forward, that led me to going in-house with a company called Anonymizer that did internet anonymity before VPNs were cool. And at first it was direct to consumer, then we pivoted to B2B, and then ultimately to government. So if you go to Al Jazeera from an IP address in San Francisco, you're going to see something very different than if you go from an IP address in Syria. So I had success with that in an exit. And then a few more adventures led me to Raken. And that's when I had my first taste of construction tech in this massive, huge industry. Before, I've done doctors, lawyers, CEOs, CIOs, you name it. But construction people are very different in that they answer the phone because they do so much business on the phone. They're really proud of their projects and they work really, really hard. So a buddy of mine was the first co-founder at a startup called Raken. And Raken does what's called construction daily reports. Same thing as Olympus. He's like, hey, we need some help. I'm like, here's everything you need to do, but they wanted me to do it. So I set up these early campaigns on Apple Search, Google, tested some other channels, some Meta, and I started listening in on the demos. And that's when I'm like, these are my people. So I joined that company full time, hired the first 2 BDRs, first 2 account executives, executed my proven B2B SaaS playbook, got us to $1 million in revenue. And part of my go-to-market strategy is to always partner with the bigger guys. At that time, it was PlanGrid, Procore, and a few others. And PlanGrid had just raised a Series A from Sequoia. and they're a Y Combinator startup darling and had everything going for it, like super positive. So I ultimately joined those guys and had a ride with them. And then I got recruited to be a fractional CMO for a company called Qpix, and it's about to come full circle.
Mm,
So Qpix with a C does what's called reality capture, 360 reality capture. So have you ever done like a Google Private Street View?
yes. Yeah.
So it's just like that, but it's inside your home or your office or your construction project. Now, in order to get that experience, you have to have a special 360 camera. So you have to have extra hardware, and it either sits on your hard hat or you hold it. And every time you take 5 steps, you take a picture, a 360 picture. So imagine the end of a 5,000 square foot job walk or a 10,000 square foot job walk. So I helped them launch it in North America, personas, messaging, media, had a great successful launch. They wanted to hire me full time, but we couldn't agree on what it was. We're still friends. And that is when the same time that the iPhone came out with the LiDAR camera. And so I have visited hundreds of job sites of every shape, size, and budget. And everybody is struggling to take photos. And the 360 stuff is awesome, except it's expensive, requires hardware, it's not fast, it's not automatic, requires custom quotes for every sales call, longer sales cycle. So I'm like, that's why I came up with the idea for Pixly. So December 2019, and we're on a mission to democratize visual documentation and collaboration for construction. We also have customers in insurance and other verticals too.
Super cool. Um, thanks
Thanks.
for sharing the story. I'm curious, you've done a little bit of these stints where you went back and forth from starting a company, running your own agency, and then going into an organization for a period of time. And I know a few fractional stints. Has that been, what was that? What were those experiences like? I know it's primarily, because they wanted you to help execute on the plan instead of just, providing the plan. But
Mhm.
what are the kind of like pros and cons that you've loved about working for somebody versus then working for yourself?
Well, there's only one pro. There's only one. That's a consistent paycheck. The rest of it's pretty much all cons. It's like
Yeah,
mini hiccups that keep you from growing and doing all the things that any of us can do as entrepreneurs. You just
yeah,
have to have the courage to go for it. So if you have an idea, go for it. But I actually started a podcast called Startup Therapy about that whole thing.
oh, very
But
cool.
I loved the marketing agency business was great because it's different people, different clients, different challenges, different markets, different messaging, all the things that go into it. And so that's super fun. It never got old. It's super hard work, and clients come and go, and there's usually not a lot of long-term loyalty to any agency.
Yeah,
Their AORs are hard to keep around. So I saw that, and then plus I saw what was going on with Anonymizer, and I really enjoyed when I was the marketing manager and the marketing director for backup.com. So to be part of growing something internally and figuring stuff out before this Google Analytics was super awesome. And then having my own business is great. I answered to nobody, but there's a lot more pressure. And so I saw the opportunity with Anonymizer. I took it. I'm glad. I'm certainly glad I did because we had an exit with that one. And then I kind of just I downsized the agency, and I just do a fractional CMO roles for very few, very select clients. First of all, I only work with people at Pixly. This is one of the reasons I'm doing it, and clients that I enjoy working with. It's really important. So I love the fractional stuff because it never gets old. I learn new things about new markets. There's some things that are just, CMO marketing 101, 102, 103, you just got to get done. But there's also other niches, and the riches are in the niches.
yep, absolutely. Um, with you mentioned this just slightly earlier when you went to Raiken and selling into construction, it was a lot different than it was in your previous stints. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that looked like? And you mentioned already kind of they pick up the phone calls and the whole nine, and so
Sure.
channels are probably very different, and then the way that you approach your go to market is probably quite different. And I'm wondering if you found that to be advantageous, and that's perhaps why you stuck. You solve you. I don't know if that had anything to do with you starting Pixley in terms of understanding how to talk and where to talk to the audience, versus like doing something that you had previously done with maybe like selling to like more mid market or enterprise kind of stuff.
Well, I was determined to do something on my own again, and I wanted to be SaaS because I've had success with SaaS, B2B and B2C with backup.com and Anonymizer. Did some consumer stuff with a Yelp competitor. But the reason I really like the idea of Raken is like these people are like building the world. Like everything you're sitting in or walking to is something that somebody built. And these guys and gals oftentimes get up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning to drive to a project or there all day. They miss out on their kids growing up in the morning. They come home, their kids are asleep, and they have all this stress. So I just saw the massive opportunity to help one of the world's biggest markets is construction. Is once you're aware of it, you look around, you see it everywhere. There's no mistaking it. So I really want to build a company that helps them save time, less stress, less anxiety, build better, build faster, reduce disputes, and have a great time along the way and a huge exit for my investors and myself.
Got it. And
Well, I guess I didn't answer your total question. So the way it's different. So, everybody's go-to-market strategy is, okay, let's do Google AdWords and let's do
yeah,
some Meta ads and maybe do some LinkedIn ads and let's test some AI for B2B outbound lead gen and all that stuff. But construction is a little bit different because it's so huge and it's also one of the last to this day to adopt technology. So there's a lot of companies out there that still run their business on Excel, believe it or not. There's a lot more competition in this space than there was 8 years ago for every possible type of thing. But there's just so much opportunity. So what makes it different is, yes, people pick up the phone, which is great. They pick up the phone when they're at their kid's soccer game, their daughter's gymnast course, their whatever it is, the grocery store, the bank, they answer the phone all the time. But they are also super direct, which is refreshing for me. No nonsense, like let's get right to it. What does it do? What does it cost? And they move things along. There can be a longer sales cycle for big companies, but they're just like just refreshingly direct than any other industry I've worked with.
got it. And was that something that you thought was an advantage, having worked with Raken and kind of like seeing,
Yeah,
the personality type tends, I think when you're building a product, right? Like you're thinking about the market, you're thinking about how, at least I think if you're a non-technical founder, like you're definitely thinking about all those things, because it's going to be a big difference in terms of like how you're actually going to grow the business, right? It's not
right,
just creating something cool and then putting it out and trying to find the market afterwards, but you
right.
as somebody who focuses on go to market, I'm just curious if like, you felt that there was an advantage there for you because of you already working with Raken, knowing how to talk to the audience. And if that was a part of your decision, in addition to obviously really, I feel like you connect to your customer base and you really like the personality and the psychology of what they have to go through on a day in and day out basis and wanting to help them.
Yeah, so it's really, I jokingly say bro out with them, but it's really easy to find commonality. So I
Sure.
don't always have this background screen. Sometimes I'm in my garage and my garage is full of motorcycles, surfboards, and camping gear. And
Mm,
also we automatically start talking about one of the three or golf, and then it leads into business. But it's really easy to build relationships with people where you have some commonality and when
yep.
you're helping them and you're just being direct. Like I'm not trying to sell, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm trying to help
Yep.
them save time and stop the craziness. The other problem we saw was people, even if they have the best software there is out there, they're constantly texting emails and texting photos back and forth or email or folders. And it's total chaos. That's another big thing we solve.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing also is that in prior years, there's been software solutions out there and salespeople that have sold to the C-suite right away. And the C-suite will buy the software and then the field won't adopt it or use it. They're like, nope, we're not using that.
Yeah.
So the sales cycle is quite different, especially for the large guys. You have to get a pilot project. You have to find, first of all, you have to find an internal champion, either on the innovation side or somebody in the field, ideally a superintendent or project manager that sees the value in what we're doing. And he's like, I can get behind this. This can really help. And then help you get that pilot project. Then you have to make sure everything is done to make sure that pilot project is as successful as it can be. And then based on that, then you get introduced to regional projects. And then based on that, then national projects. That's the flow for the big guys, what they call the ENR 400, which is the Engineering News Record Top 400. It's like the Fortune 500 construction. The smaller guys can make a decision and buy software today and implement it today if they have 5 to 10 users. So, and there's a wide swath between the two.
Yeah. Is there a particular segment that you focus on?
Well, when you start, well, yes, the first it was the ENR 400
Yeah.
because also one of the reasons I like this industry is I have a lot of connections, right? So you
Okay.
want to capitalize or leverage or utilize your relationships that you have. I had a lot of relationships from Raken and from PlanGrid and from Cupix, and I wanted to make sure that that would help me go to market faster. But even before any of that happens, I went to them and said, "Hey, this is my idea. This is what I want to build. Would you buy
Got it.
this?" That
Yeah.
was super important, and
Yeah.
do some lean startup stuff and make sure people you know, and more importantly, people you don't know are willing to buy your product.
Yeah.
It all started with that, but that's one of the reasons I like the industry.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that, talking to the customer before you even put together a line of code is so important.
Mhm.
Um,
So the other thing is, maybe I'm too long-winded today. So the customers when we serve range. So we have one customer, it's a hospital in San Diego, and they have a 10-year, $500 million capital improvement program, which means they're building onto their campuses, right? So they use Pixly from the time they push dirt to the time they turn over the keys to document everything. That's an ideal customer. Another one is large general contractors that build airports and bridges and highways and everything else. And then we have our first enterprise customer, actually, is a great story in itself because this is marketing, right? I was buying a competitor keyword, good tip there,
yeah.
and I got a lead from a very large company, which I converted, and they do 600 kitchen and bathroom models a week. And we
Wow.
save them 45 minutes a day per project.
Wow.
Now, to get that lead, I got that lead in, I had to work it. I mean, so he basically was comparing me against his competitor, and he said, it'd be great if your product did this. So I built it. I'm like, okay, I built it. What else do you want? Let's go. Give me 10 users. He's like, well, it'd be great if it had pins the projects in the dashboards. I'm like, I'll build that. So a week later, I built it and I said, okay, give me 10 users. He's like, I'm going to give you all 300.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then we have a guy that manages the refrigeration, the coils for like Walmart's and Albertsons and Vons. And once a quarter, he sends a field tech out and they inspect the coils, either need to be cleaned, repaired, or replaced. No matter what, they're inspected. They take photos of all four of those things, attach them to the invoices for payments.
Hmm.
There's so many use cases before and after insurance repairs.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then we have found a sweet spot with the small to medium-sized specialty concrete contractors,
Interesting.
electrical, and HVAC. So this what we call the specialty subs.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. As you, you're now almost 5 years in, right, with Pixly. Um, how has this been different, if at all, from, from starting an agency, which is also an entrepreneurial endeavor, but it's very, very different. I know you wear different hats every single time you become a founder, regardless of which company it is. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's been some of the things that, maybe you learned from previous endeavors or things that you took away? And how has it been different with Pixly versus some of those other experiences?
Well, the big most important takeaway is do your customer research first before you build anything.
Yeah.
So I worked for startups that did not do that, or they were already pretty far down the path. So I did that before, and then I had mock-ups of the UX and the UI and all that stuff before any code was done. So that I learned that a long time ago, and that's super, super important. Let's see. I mean, other things I learned is it's just I guess it's a little bit different when it's your money and your time and it's all on you. I've always been all in on every job I've ever had. I've certainly missed my fair share of vacations and other things because I was just like committed to that founder's cause and riding that rocket ship with them, supposedly to the moon. But the song remains the same. There's a certain amount of channels out there. You have to test them. There's variables that go into testing every channel. Just because it doesn't work the first time doesn't mean it won't work the second time. I'm hardcore like performance marketing,
Mm.
but what I do wear all the hats. So right now we're a small team. I have one co-founder who's a third generation real estate developer. I have a CFO, and I'm the CEO, VP of sales, and VP of customer support. And I actually like the customer support stuff a lot because I find out what's working or not working and what they need. I
Mm.
call all customers and try and solicit feedback as much as I can, but the support implementation guy is great. there's nothing better than somebody seeing the value in your software and ready to go and sign up and excited about it. I mean, that's one of the best feelings in the world.
For sure, for sure. So you mentioned you're wearing a lot of, you are, doing CEO, sales, customer support, the whole nine. Where do you see Pixly in the next like 6 months, next few years here?
We're raising capital right now,
Look,
so we're actively raising our seed round. That's going to go to build some integrations that are approved, that are really important part of our go-to-market. Some early inbound marketing, a BDR account executive. So we're raising our seed round right now, and in 6 months, those integrations will be live. We'll have our first top ENR top 10 customer live and standardizing on us, and we'll be off to the races. Yeah, we'll be growing the team.
very cool. And what's been some of the, having worked on this for several years now, what's been some of the biggest challenges before going and getting ready to raise this seed round? Obviously you're building, you're trying to get market validation and all that.
Yeah.
But you're also probably operating very lean. You're, may or may not be paying your guys' sales like to that much, in terms of like you're not getting market rate, obviously, in the whole nine. Uh,
No, not yet. That would be nice.
yeah,
Someday.
yeah.
Someday.
So what's been the challenges for you? Like, and how do you view some of those things?
The biggest challenge initially was like raising capital.
Mm,
So we started but we had the idea in early mid 2019, but we incorporated December 2019. And I raised what I thought would be just enough from friends and family to build the MVP
yeah,
and the early go to market. And then there's a playbook for raising capital, right? And then COVID happened. So
got it.
then COVID was a major setback. We had offshore developers, had some challenges with that. And so getting the MVPs in time, because I'm trying to get pre-sales, I'm trying to get strategic sales or strategic investments, which is always a great way to go, were more challenging than I thought, because I couldn't get the product to keep up with me at the time.
Got it.
Yeah, ran out of money, self-funded it, won a pitch competition with the veteran fund for $100,000. That came in the form of a safe note. I put that back into the business, and that got us to where we are today with thousands of users and dozens of customers. But I
Got
would say for me, raising capital has been the hardest thing.
Yeah.
That's going to change today.
Fair enough. Why do you think the raising the capital has been so hard? Is it like, um, is it the market? Is it the way that they kind of view it, or what's
Well,
your experience?
that's what keeps me up at night. Is it me? Is it the market? Is it product? I mean, we check all the boxes. So we are in due diligence with 2 funds right now, which I'm excited about, and some angels. I prefer to have angels or angel networks for the amount we're trying to raise. But I think it's a combination. COVID slowed us down. Some people just can't understand the industry.
Yeah,
Others want to see more traction. It depends. It depends. Yeah,
got it.
that's what
Uh,
keeps me up.
yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. I get it. Very cool. And then just as we're rounding up on time here, um, where would you like to see like Pixly end up? I mean, right now, you mentioned kind of this core feature, uh, but do you imagine that this can be like a Trojan horse to a bigger thing?
100%. So what we do right now, it's like actually a customer said it. Google Pixely's like Google Photos, Instagram, and Slack had a baby for construction.
Yeah.
So literally, you open up Pixely, goes right to your camera. All your photos are organized in workspaces and projects. Anybody can see them, interact on them. I want to be synonymous with photo capture. And so what we do now has tremendous value. And then it's our Trojan horse for building the features that include AI. There's a reason why .ai is in our domain, and why we're raising capital is to build a technology to automatically recognize what's in the photos and to do measurements and a few other
Mm,
things. But yes, you're dead on. This is our Trojan horse to get in with all shapes and sizes of contractors.
got it. Got it. Very cool. On that note, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story, your narrative, what you guys are doing at Pixely. Super, super interesting. And just in terms of like how you ended up landing on the idea. So wanted to say thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. If anybody wants to try it and get a discount, just say Lead Pro, and I'll give you 20% off.
Absolutely, for sure.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Same.